Episode 1 of House of the Dragon Season 2 has finally been released by HBO, and it's a solid start to the second season of the Game of Thrones prequel show. We get a truly shocking ending that intensifies the upcoming Targaryen war between Team Black and Green, and an account of the aftermath surrounding the death of Lucerys at the end of Season 1. So in this explained analysis, I'm going to be giving you my breakdown and review of House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 1, discussing plot details and that ending. There will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched the episode yet, then I would recommend checking it out before watching my analysis. Before I get into it though, if you want to see more on House of the Dragon and the Game of Thrones spin-off shows, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like, rating, and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into my explained video for House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 1. So it's been almost 2 years since House of the Dragon premiered its first season, and it's thrilling to finally return to the world of Westeros. Looking back, the debut season of the Game of Thrones prequel series set a strong foundation, leaving us eagerly awaiting what Season 2 had in store. And the first episode of the new season, titled A Son for a Son, does a mostly great job of getting us back into the Targaryen Civil War. Season 2 kicks off just days after the thrilling conclusion of Season 1, and the pivotal point to remember is that King Viserys Targaryen met his demise, leading to a conspiracy within his council to place his grandson Aegon II on the Iron Throne instead of his rightful heir Rhaenyra Targaryen. Alicent Hightower, once a close friend of Rhaenyra, believed that Viserys uttered Aegon's name in his final moments, indicating his desire for Aegon to rule instead of Rhaenyra. Regardless of that truth, Alicent is determined to secure her family's legacy. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra seeks refuge on Dragonstone and gathers an army to reclaim her rightful place on the throne. The season reached its climax when Rhaenyra's son Lucerys tragically lost his life in a dragon mishap involving Aemon's dragon Vhagar. So the fuel for war is now here, and with what happens in episode 1 of season 2, we get a sense that the heat of that won't be too far away. Season 2 kicks off with Rhaenyra's son Jacaerys flying north of Winterfell to seek an alliance with Cregan Stark at the Wall. Yes, the Starks are finally back in action. Stark pledges loyalty to Rhaenyra but can't spare his soldiers with winter approaching. Jace mocks Cregan for focusing on wildlings and the weather, but Stark grimly reminds him of the true threat beyond the Wall, which is death. Despite the somber news of Lucerys' murder by Aemon Targaryen, the Northern fighters join Rhaenyra's cause. But we soon learn that there is no time for celebration because Jacaerys learns of his brother's fate. Back at Dragonstone, we learn that Rhaenyra grieves alone and Daemon is eager for revenge in King's Landing. But Rhaenys and her dragon stop him. She tells him that a raven brought news of her son's death and she must confirm it. And of course, acting out of anger during a looming war is not a wise thing to do. However, Daemon is set on a path of retribution and he suggests trading a son for a son. He blames Rhaenys for not killing Aegon II during his coronation, which he believes would have prevented all of this. He urges her to return to her dragon and fly with him, despite her recent shift to monitoring the blockade around King's Landing. She refuses, leaving Daemon to fight Rhaenyra's battle alone. In the meantime, Rhaenys and her spouse Corlys Velaryon are maintaining a naval blockade to safeguard Dragonstone and Driftmark. Corlys, who used to be the master of ships and now commands the royal fleet, has chosen to oppose the crown. Interestingly, he is also recuperating from a mysterious encounter with pirates during the first season, which unfortunately took place off-screen. It's said that he was saved by one of his crew members named Alan, whom we are now introduced to. We see that Alan presents Corlys with a specially commissioned sword hilt for Lucerys, who was designated as the heir of Driftmark before his death. On the other side in King's Landing, we discover that Alicent Hightower and Sir Criston Cole are currently involved in a secret affair. However, right after their encounter, Alicent quickly reminds him that they cannot continue their indulgence. So I guess we'll see if that holds. But before we even have a chance to fully comprehend this, they are called to attend a meeting regarding the latest updates on the ongoing war by the newly crowned King Aegon II and his small council. As they enter the small council meeting, shortly after, Otto, Alicent's father, takes one glance at both his daughter and the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard and immediately senses that something is amiss. Also, King Aegon II is determined to have his young son Jaehaerys accompany him to the council meeting. It's crucial that we keep Jaehaerys in mind too, as events later in the episode are quite disturbing. Aegon emphasises that Jaehaerys will one day be king. During the meeting though, the council takes stock of the forces in King's Landing. The Baratheons from the Stormlands, the Lannisters from Casterly Rock, and Hand of the King Otto Hightower's family from Oldtown have all pledged their allegiance. Jaehaerys' presence captivates the council as he plays with the large stone marbles in front of each member. However, Aegon is eager to act swiftly as war looms. Despite the distraction of the marbles, the council advises against the king leading the charge against Rhaenyra, emphasising the importance of his safety within King's Landing. As the meeting eventually comes to a close, Alicent then engages in conversation with Larys Strong. As we learned in Season 1, Larys is a conniving character who is best to avoid, and shockingly he confesses to Alicent that he has actually murdered several members of their staff whom he considered untrustworthy. To make matters worse, he even suggests that the king should replace his own grandfather as Hand and appoint him instead. So it looks like Larys is going to be up to more of the same as we get further into Season 2. Later on, after the meeting, Aegon II takes his seat on the throne to listen to the pleas of the common people. Surprisingly, this king, who sometimes resembles Joffrey, isn't always a tyrant. He genuinely wants to make a positive impact on his people, despite his grandfather's constant interference. Otto, however, reminds everyone that the crown has financial responsibilities that take precedence over individual needs. A blacksmith named Hugh is one of the people who steps forward, requesting additional funds to construct giant dragon-killing crossbows. Aegon supports this request, showing a willingness to address their concerns. After this meeting though, the ever-cunning Larys manages to have a private conversation with the king. He cleverly points out that Otto had significant control over Viserys for many years, planting a seed of doubt in the king's mind. Moving on, we come back to Rhaenyra, who is quickly given more fuel to want revenge after the death of her son. As tears stream down her face, Rhaenyra clutches Luke's cloak tightly, finding out that it had become entangled in a fisherman's net along with the wing of her dragon. The sorrow is so overwhelming that even Syrax, her loyal dragon, joins in the mourning, letting out a cry that echoes across the shore. When the queen finally returns from her desperate episode-long search, she has no words for her council except for one demand: the head of Aemon Targaryen. In the privacy of their reunion, Jace, having returned from the wall, can barely get through recounting his successful encounters with the Arryns and the Starks before he and his mother collapse into each other's arms, grieving their shared loss. Meanwhile, Daemon receives news that Mysaria has been discovered as a stowaway on a ship bound for Dragonstone. For a brief moment, he contemplates his relationship with his former lover, considering the growing divide between him and Rhaenyra. However, due to Mysaria's willingness to accept money from their enemies in exchange for information, she is seen more as a captive of war rather than a potential ally. Nevertheless, Daemon proposes a deal to her. If she provides him with valuable information on how to infiltrate the Red Keep without detection, she will earn her freedom. In the midst of Rhaenyra's sorrowful demand for Aemon's execution, Daemon devises his own plan for vengeance by hiring assassins to infiltrate the palace and assassinate the prince. Thus, Daemon asks Mysaria to utilize her criminal spy network to locate two individuals for him. A cloaked Daemon then arrives by boat at King's Landing. With the help of Mysaria's information, he forms an alliance with a castle guard who harbours a deep grudge against the Hightowers, gaining entry into the city. Working together, they enlist the help of a rat catcher who is familiar with the underground passages beneath the Red Keep. Their mission is to assassinate Aemon while he slumbers that very night. The unlikely duo consists of Blood, a former city guardsman with a tarnished reputation, and Cheese, a cunning rat catcher. In George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, a court jester named Mushroom recounts the tale of these men and their savage murder of Aegon's son. Some of the most vibrant lines in the show are directly taken from Mushroom's narrative. However, in the book, Daemon doesn't explicitly order the killers to target and slay Aemond because the intended victim remains hidden. It could have been Aegon himself, but he was likely too well protected for the two scoundrels to succeed. Blood and Cheese locate Alicent, bind her, silence her, and dispatch her guards. They patiently wait for Queen Helaena to arrive with her 3 children, including the 2-year-old Maelor. Then they present her with a dreadful choice between the 2 boys. Hesitantly, she selects Maelor, and with a swift stroke, Blood severs Jaehaerys' head. They make their escape, leaving the rest unharmed. The show captures the essence of this in episode 1's ending, but it does have some noticeable alterations. In the episode's ending, when they do get to Aemond's room, he's not there. As the rain pours outside, they move stealthily through the living quarters, creating an atmosphere that is both tense and eerie. Cheese comes face to face with Queen Helaena, holding a knife to her throat in the room where her children Jaehaerys and Jahara sleep. Blood runs cold as the queen, frozen with fear, is forced to reveal which child is the boy. Initially hesitant, Helaena offers her jewelry as a distraction, but ultimately points to Jaehaerys. Even then, there is a slight moment of doubt among the duo, questioning if the queen is deceiving them. However, Helena's sincerity is evident as she sacrifices the heir to the Iron Throne. Jaehaerys is beheaded while Helaena grabs the other child and flees. Once she reaches her mother's room, Helaena finds Alicent and Sir Criston Cole once again making love, squashing what Alicent said to Criston earlier on in the episode. And Alicent, now dressed, anxiously inquires about the situation, with Helaena replying in shock that they killed the boy. The chilling event unfolds with horrifying implications, leaving much to the imagination, and it becomes apparent that Team Green is not as secure as they once believed. So overall, House of the Dragon Season 2 is off to a solid start, teasing the escalation of war between the Blacks and the Greens. Premiering a new season can be quite challenging, especially for a show like House of the Dragon, which focuses on lots of world building. There's a lot of explaining to do and stages to set, and after a thrilling 10 episodes leading up to the latest season, one might have expected an explosive start. However, it seems we'll have to exercise a little patience. But fear not, because character development is already in full swing, and it's being executed as well as before. Alicent's conflicting consciousness and Aegon's rebellious nature are confidently taking centre stage. Glyn Carney in particular is fantastic so far, and just from a few scenes, I can already tell he's going to steal many more in the new season. So as a whole, it was a fantastic start to Season 2. I do think the editing and pacing were a bit jarring throughout this first episode, as when a scene would be a minute or so in, it would quite quickly cut to another scene on the other side of the Seven Kingdoms. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing, because I do get that they are trying to keep a level of intensity with the rising war. Still, it did stand out, and as of now, it's probably my only real complaint about this episode. But on the mostly positive side, what I will say is that it's fascinating to see the contrast between both House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, despite their shared setting and aesthetic. While Thrones remains rooted in heroic fantasy, House of the Dragon takes a much darker turn. It delves into a brutal civil war where no one emerges with clean hands, and everyone is consumed by grief or vengeance. This new take on the franchise is truly commendable, as it offers a different kind of storytelling palette. It's hard to ignore that this season's premiere challenges our perception of who the good guys and the bad guys truly are. And let me tell you, the show does an exceptional job of reminding us that the answer is not so simple. Both sides in this conflict are a mix of honourable and wicked individuals all at the same time. Unlike Game of Thrones, for instance, where the characters were often more tightly categorised as either heroic or villainous, House of the Dragon presents a much more nuanced take on those that we follow. This opening episode builds its focus, and hopefully as the episodes go on, it will truly deliver with the upcoming war. But that was my breakdown and analysis for House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 1. I do hope this breakdown helped some of you guys understand the events and smaller details a bit better, and overall, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the episode, so don't forget to let me know down below in the comment section. I will be covering every new episode of House of the Dragon Season 2, so keep a lookout for whenever I post and make sure you don't miss any of it. For more videos on House of the Dragon and the Game of Thrones spin-off shows, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.